I have drawn a whole lot of Pokemon in my time. Like, seriously, like, a lot of Pokemon. Like, I kind of have a problem where I'm addicted to drawing Pokemon because I love them so much. I've always thought to myself, how cool would it be to draw every single Pokemon that existed? I've always sort of dismissed that idea after realizing how many Pokemon there actually are in existence, which is like almost 1,000 by now. But to be fair, recently I've thought to myself, a lot of people on YouTube have done more ridiculous things than that, so why don't I actually try to officially attempt to draw every single Pokemon that exists? That doesn't mean I'm actually going to be drawing every single Pokemon that exists in this video today, because that would be absolutely ridiculous, hours long, and it would take me years to complete. But I thought to myself, I draw a lot of Pokemon. It is a staple here on my channel. Also, it has been a staple since, to be honest, when I first learned how to draw when I was a child. So why don't I just make it a series here on this channel? I already pretty much have a series where I draw Pokemon or fan art, but why don't I make it an official series trying to draw every single Pokemon that exists? It doesn't exactly change anything since I always draw Pokemon here anyways, but I thought, if I officially try and, make the challenge official, it would be interesting and fun. So today I am drawing the Pokemon GIRATINA. GIRATINA, I absolutely love this guy. He is badass, he looks super cool, and he actually has two forms. I'm actually drawing the original form of GIRATINA, as you can see, the one with the really cool sort of tentacle-y wing things coming out and no legs. I think he's super cool. Now, my history with GIRATINA goes back to 2006 when Pokemon Diamond and Pearl were released. I got them a few months after their release date, and it was one of my first Pokemon games, and to be honest, this game was the game that made me fall in love with Pokemon to begin with. It's actually quite funny because after I completed the game and caught Palkia, I love Palkia, I actually didn't know there was an extra legendary that you could catch called GIRATINA, because they don't really sort of hint to it throughout the game. You kind of just have to discover him and catch him. And the funny thing is, I actually didn't catch him. I actually discovered him because my sister Amber was playing my game, and she caught him for me without even telling me, and then showed me later, and I was like, oh whoa, what's this, a legendary? But nonetheless, I fell in love, and I love GIRATINA so much, and I used him many times against the Elite Four and the Champion. I actually still own that GIRATINA to this day. He is in my Pokemon home, and he's glorious, and I love him. But that's not the end of my history of GIRATINA, because a few years later, in 2008, Pokemon Platinum was released, and GIRATINA was in the front and center of this game. And I was so excited because Sinnoh is one of my favorite regions, and when they made an extra game with Sinnoh, I was like, hell to the yeah, let's get this shit. I didn't actually say that. I asked my mum very nicely to get me Pokemon Platinum, and she did, and I was very happy about it. But Pokemon Platinum was amazing because GIRATINA was the main guy, and it actually had a different sort of storyline, and you actually got to go into GIRATINA's dimension, the distortion world, and he had this new form, and it was just so epic. Now, that's not the only GIRATINA I own. I actually also own another GIRATINA, because in 2013 they had a sort of giveaway where they gave away the legendaries of Sinnoh, and of course I got all three, and GIRATINA, the shiny legendary boy, oh, I love him. But yes, I'm actually drawing GIRATINA today, and I'm using my iPad Pro to draw it because I have been loving digital art lately. I kind of fell out of it a little bit because I have so many interests and hobbies and so many mediums at my disposal, but I still love Procreate and I love my iPad, and as you can see in a recent video, I sort of got back into it and it has been amazing. Now, with this sort of drawing every single Pokemon challenge, I am going to include some of my previous Pokemon artworks in this because I have drawn them and they definitely count. Now, some of them don't count. As you can see on my channel, I have some challenges where I will paint on certain things or with certain things, and one of them includes painting on hats, and I did a sort of hat with all the ghost type Pokemon on it, and it was awesome. But I feel like something like that doesn't count because I want all of these Pokemon in this challenge to be like illustrations, as if you could maybe use it as like prints or something like that. So I am going to include some artworks that I have done in the past that definitely count, but I won't be including other ones. I am going to make this into a playlist if you're interested in Pokemon art, and I'm going to be including some of my previous videos in that as well. I know they don't really mention the whole drawing every single Pokemon challenge thing, but I really love those illustrations that I've made in the past, so they definitely count. But anyways, I am using Procreate, as I mentioned earlier, to draw this. And I struggled a little bit because in some areas, like as you can see the face here, I kind of struggled to get that second eye to look good and make it not look derpy, but that's okay. But once I finally got that line art how I liked it, I went in and colored it. Now with this coloring, I'm trying to make it a bit more interesting because a lot of the time I feel like my digital art just isn't as strong as my traditional art. I really want to sort of push my digital art and make it better and sort of, you know, work at it so that I feel like it's sort of equal to my traditional art, if that makes sense. For some weird reason in my head, I've always felt like my digital artworks aren't as impressive as my traditional artworks, which is absolutely ridiculous because I spend roughly the same amount of time and roughly the same amount of effort on them. And yeah, I don't know why I sort of have that in my head, probably because you don't get an sort of artwork that you can hold in your hands. But that's completely ridiculous and nonsense because I don't think that way about other people's digital art, only my own. So I kind of have to stop that. But yeah, with this drawing, I was really trying to concentrate on having strong lines and also texture in there and contrast. Those are the things that I really like to push in my artworks. I like to have a really nice solid foundation of line art that looks nice and crisp, as well as good texture in there, especially in my digital artworks, because it's so easy to have sort of flat color and really soft shading with like the airbrush tools and stuff like that. With traditional, you kind of don't have that, and you know, that texture kind of just goes there, you know, automatically. But with digital art, I really feel like I like it best when it sort of has a more traditional feel to it. So I try my best to sort of use brushes like the water brush in Procreate, which has a really nice sort of organic texture to it that I really like. I also really like to try and push colors and contrast. As you can see, I have this super vivid red that just stands out really nicely. And the great thing about GIRATINA is that it has really dark parts on it with those stripes, but it has this vivid red which just looks amazing. I use a few different shading techniques in this. I have used a little bit of airbrush here and there just to try and get a sort of slight, you know, shape to it. After this, I also use a nice sort of water brush, as I mentioned earlier, to get some nice sort of textural sort of shading in there to try and give the Pokemon a look as if it's not, you know, made of plastic. It's got like this texture to its skin, that kind of thing. And later I also used a bit of sort of a harder shadow in there. I got a bit of a line art brush and I used a really sort of dark shadow, and I used that in some areas just to try and push the shadows a little bit. For the background, I didn't want it to be too crazy. I kind of wanted the Pokemon to be the main focus. However, I still wanted a nice sort of background that complemented the Pokemon really nice and also draws your eye to the Pokemon. And I had to sort of mix between a few different colors. I wasn't sure if I wanted that background color to be darker than the sort of tentacly wing things or lighter, but I ended up settling on a pure black background at first because it just helped the Pokemon just to stand out really nicely, and it gave it a really good amount of contrast. Once I settled on a really dark background, I had to go back into the Pokemon and add sort of more shadows and highlights, and I used really bright highlights around some areas of the Pokemon, as well as a white outline around the Pokemon completely with an inking brush. And this is because I really didn't want to lose that nice crisp line art around the edges of the Pokemon, so having a white outline around that helped it separate the background from the line art. After this, I added a few soft highlights and I sort of blurred them a little bit to the background, and I gave the background a bit more of a purpley look but kept it rather dark. And overall, I'm super happy. I love this guy so much. GIRATINA is one of my favorite Pokemon because Sinnoh is one of my favorite regions, and it was a blessing and it was awesome to draw this guy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment below your favorite Pokemon, your favorite region, and your favorite legendary. I love nerding out and just talking about Pokemon. I can't do it enough lately. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys are staying safe, and I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you hopefully in my next video. Bye everyone.